Edinburgh New Town illustrates 3 urban design principles for the expansion of cities. First, the landscape should be designed before the architecture. Second, aesthetics should be a major influence on the design of streets. And third, urban design can and should learn from garden design. Conceptually, Craig's plan is a mannerist garden design repurposed as an urban design. The rectangular compartments are typical of high Renaissance gardens, while the use of axes and focal points is typically mannerist. The Villa d'Este and the Villa Lanti are precursors of Craig's design, though he never saw them. The 5 compositional elements of gardens and of Edinburgh's New Town are landform, buildings, planting, paving and water. Never mind whether the designers saw themselves as masons, poets, painters, architects, gardeners or landscape improvers, the skill of composing these 5 elements is landscape architecture. Craig had been apprenticed to a stonemason who had helped build Adam's Royal Exchange in Edinburgh High Street, but Craig was more influenced by his uncle, James Thomson, a famous landscape poet who wrote The Seasons and the words for Rule Britannia. Often, Thomson leads the reader on a scenic walk. After climbing a hill, he likes to enjoy the view, as he did in summer of 1726. And what a various prospect lies around, of hills and vales and woods and lawns and spires, and towns betwixt, and gilded streams, till all the stretching landscape into smoke decays. In Edinburgh, the medieval Old Town followed a sloping ridge from Edinburgh Castle to Holyrood House. It has some great views of nearby landscapes. Instead of rebuilding it in a modern style, as so many cities have done, particularly in East Asia, Edinburgh city fathers kept the Old Town, and they held a competition for the design of a new town in 1766. It was won by James Thomson's nephew, James Craig. Basing his design on an appreciation of Edinburgh's landscape, Craig created a great work of landscape architecture. The horizontal crest of the New Town Ridge, lying north of the Old Town, became the central axis of Craig's design. Squares and churches were planned at both ends of George Street to create beautiful views. Streets sloping north from the ridge gave views of the sea. Some are shown on the plan lined with trees. Streets sloping to the south gave views of Edinburgh Castle and what became Princes Street Gardens. Queen Street and Princes Street were designed as one-sided terraces facing onto gardens. Calton Hill was used as a focal point at the east end of Princes Street, as was a church at the west end. Statues were placed at strategic points and intersections, as was done in Renaissance gardens. The Norloch in what is now Princes Street Gardens featured in Craig's design, but was drained and used for a railway line. What puzzles me greatly about James Craig's plan is why his brilliant approach to founding urban design on the principles of landscape architecture has not been more widely adopted. Design styles must change, but Craig's principles retain their value. Urban design should be led by a deep appreciation of landscape architecture. In this sense, the planning of Edinburgh New Town is an example of what is now called landscape urbanism. A Wikipedia article explains it as follows. Landscape urbanism is a theory of urban planning, arguing that the best way to organize cities is through the design of the city's landscape, rather than the design of its buildings.